to Detroit in Black and White Thursday edition. I'm Adolph Mungo, Alan Lango from Deadline Detroit. How you doing, Alan?
All right. Hey, good to be here.
We got Carl Marlinga. How you doing?
I'm doing well, especially.
All right. We've had a little technical difficulty here. We've got Carl Marlinga on. Just hold on a second. Seems like the microphone has crashed for the moment, but hopefully we will get it back. Uh-oh. Anyways, we're going to be talking to Carl Marlinga, who's running as a Democrat in the 10th Congressional District. He's still got his primary that he has to win. It's not guaranteed, but he's certainly clearly the front runner. And it's pretty clear that the Republican candidate is going to be John James. We want to get John James on at some point to talk about his first 2 years in Congress. And okay, we're back with Carl, and we're going to be talking about the 10th Congressional District, which includes Macomb and Oakland County. And so take it away.
We back, Lango. I tell you, Alan, that's what happens when you do stuff live. And I'm learning this. Carl, welcome.
First of all, Alan, you can hear us okay?
Yep.
Okay, good. Okay. Good to be here after that short technical difficulty.
There's no question about it.
Right, okay.
So let me ask you this. There was an article in one of the newspapers talking about the money that some of these congressional and Senate people are raising. Does that scare you that John James got a couple $1 million sitting up there?
No. Well, it doesn't scare me for several reasons. So, first of all, in the last cycle, we raised $1,100,000. He raised about $5 million, and there was another $4 million that the Republican Party poured in. So I was facing $9 million worth of advertising against me to my $1 million, which should have just wiped me off the face of the earth. But we finished in a virtual tie. He got 48.8% of the vote. I got 48.3%. So all of the money that he dumped into this, mostly negative, all untrue, was meant to depress my vote, and it just didn't work. The polls that we were doing at the beginning of the campaign showed that it was going to be neck and neck. At the end of the campaign, it was exactly that. In other words, nothing moved. Now, this time around, the other reason that this doesn't scare me is that I think with the Republican Party being in disarray, they're going to be able to put less money into it. And so I don't think we're going to be facing 9 million this time. It might be 5 or 6 million. But on our side, we're going to have the Democratic National Committee, the DCCC, all of the major funders are going to be in on this race, because the last time around, remember, they didn't think that the seat was winnable. They thought that when Andy Levin said that it couldn't be won, they just didn't want to invest in it. But now they know with my strong finish the last time that, oh my God, it is winnable. It's right there for the taking. And so we will get literally millions of dollars in this time that we didn't before. But there's a third answer, and I got to put this in. As the years go on, people are less and less trustful of what they see on TV. So the millions of dollars of ads have less and less of an effect. It's good for name recognition, but I've got name recognition. John James has name recognition. So all of the money that's going to be dumped on TV, it's important.
What are you going to do with the money that comes there? Since you're saying, and I tend to agree with you, because at some point, the stations run ad after ad after ad. You got 5 or 6, and people just shut it off.
Yeah. So the key to victory, I think, I know, is going to be door-to-door campaigning. We're going to have canvassers go out, and we are literally going to talk to every voter in the district. Now, that's going to take a lot of people. Some might have to be paid staffers to do it. The great majority will be volunteers, but we will literally, our campaign plan is to knock on every door in the district. Now, that's a lot of doors. But this is going to be the major race in
Did
Michigan.
you do that at the last campaign? What are you gonna do that's different, that's, that's gonna make a difference besides getting some more money from the Democratic Party?
Well, first of all, I knocked on doors in the last campaign as a like there's like 400,000 people that are going to be voting. So a congressional candidate can't himself or herself knock on every door. But what it means is that with the money that's coming in, sure, a good part of it will have to go to TV and radio. But a good part of it is going to be to organize the field operation, both to have paid staffers, but also to have the staff reach out for the volunteers. I was down at the University of Michigan a couple of weeks ago talking to the young Dems there. I'll go up to Michigan State to talk to the young Dems there. I have emails going out to people all over the state. Once we get past the primary and into the general election, people will look at Michigan and say, well, look at what can we do in Michigan? Well, there are 3 seats that we have to save. The one out west with Hillary Scholten holding that, the one that Alyssa Slotkin used to hold, but now she's running for Senate, so we have to take that. And the one that Dale Kildee is retiring from, we have to take that. But when we do that, we will hold what we already have. We, on the Democratic side of things, have to pick up a total of 4 seats nationwide in order to win back the House of Representatives, put in Hakeem Jeffries, a great guy who's going to be a great speaker, and end Mike Johnson's craziness in the House. More than crazy, it's just dysfunction. Mike Johnson and the Republican majority just do not know how to govern. But anyway, back to the campaign. Everybody will be looking at seats around the country to identify where can we do a pickup. This seat is going to be on everybody's hit parade because they're going to look at the numbers and say, within 0.5% of the vote in a year in which the Democratic Party had written this off. If the Democratic Party is putting in money, yes, that money will go on TV, it will go for other good purposes, but it will be a signal that if you are a young woman in Toledo or a young man in Chicago and you want to make a difference in a district that can tip the House of Representatives, we are going to be reaching you. You can come in. I remember back in 1968, I got on a bus for Gene McCarthy to campaign against the Vietnam War, went to Wisconsin, spent a couple of days. We're going to have that kind of effort here. We're going to make sure that every door is knocked. And
Hey, Carl?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. When you talk about people like Hakeem Jeffries and people, in Congress already, have you had conversations with them? Do they understand that it's a winnable seat? And have you talked to people like Hakeem Jeffries, or where is that at?
Well, I lost a part of that. I'm going to need better volume on that. But
Okay.
To the Democratic Party,
I'm saying, can you hear me okay?
I've not personally talked to Hakeem Jeffries. I
Yes.
have talked to a fellow named Don Beyer, who is the recruiting chair for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. And Don was kind enough to apologize for the DCCC not having been involved 2 years ago. And I said, don't worry, all is forgiven if you come in this time. And I know that we are now on the red to blue map. The only thing we don't know, and I can understand why, is that I'm engaged in a primary. There are 5 other really good Democrats. I know that I'm the strongest, and I know that my polls show that I'm the strongest. I'm the best challenge. But typically, where you have a primary with legitimate contenders, and all of these people are certainly that, they're all good Democrats. It is politically wise not to get involved before the primary is over. So I suspect that as soon as the primary concludes, we will be getting all of the help. We will be designated red to blue, and that will open up the channels of money nationwide.
But what are some of the key issues in this race in this district that make you stand out above John James?
Well, first of all, it's the issue of our time, which is the right to have personal freedom and autonomy in your health choices. women have a right to have abortions. They have a right to go to their physician without fearing that the physician will be under some legal duty to deny them health care or to report to the state police that there's an abortion that's going to be performed. I mean, that is so repugnant to the notion of a free society that you would have a law that would tell anybody, but this is a woman, that your health issues are a matter now of public record. These have to be private. These have to be totally secure. These have to be out of the range of government. And by the way, I think that this crosses the line from Democrat to Republican, and even from liberal to conservative, because there are a lot of Republican women who will say that I do not want to live in a country in which the government has its right to interfere in my healthcare choices, including the right to an abortion. But there are also plenty of libertarian-minded people. Even conservative Republicans in the old days used to mean conservatives wanting smaller government, wanting, like I do, not to have government interfere in your personal affairs. And so I think that this is a cutting issue because it will cause Republican women and Republican true conservatives, those who do not like the heavy hand of government involved in our personal lives, it will cause them to vote on the Democratic side. So that's issue number one. Issue number two, oh, and by the way, what separates me from John James is part of this Republican study group, which has recommended a nationwide abortion ban, meaning they want to roll back and overturn the decision that we in Michigan made in 2022. They have reproductive freedom rights recognized to not have those restrictions. John James is a part of that study group, along with Mike Johnson, the speaker, who is pushing for that. Also, genocide is a word that comes out of John James' mouth when he talks about abortion. He compares it to genocide. And it's way over the top. It's inappropriate, but there could not be a clearer line of demarcation between two candidates. John James wants to control your health choices. I want freedom to ring out and let people have the right to control.
Carl, question. When you're going around in Macomb, Oakland, are people talking about the border? Are they talking about the Israeli-Gaza war? What are you hearing out there, and what are you able to tell them?
Okay, you're going to have to turn this up. I'm missing all of the. We're talking about the southern border.
Yeah. I was saying when you're. Can you hear me? Okay. Teresa, can you adjust those? Anyways, can you hear me all right?
I know that you're asking about the southern border.
Yeah. I'm asking about southern border, and also about if people are asking about Israel and Gaza, and are those issues that are on people's minds in your district?
Okay, on the southern border, I've got a clear answer that it seems to escape everybody on the Republican House side of things. First of all, Mike Johnson, John James, if you disagree with the Senate bill that was passed that would solve the crisis, then at least have the common sense and the decency to bring the matter to a vote in the House. Pass a House bill, show what your disagreement is, and then it goes to a thing called a conference committee, where the House will take its bill, meet with the Senate, work out the differences, and pass it. The crisis at the border is being perpetuated by Mike Johnson, John James, and Donald Trump. Donald Trump has told his people in the House that he doesn't want a solution to this. He doesn't want there to be a bill that will end the crisis, because he wants to take political advantage of something that he thinks he breaks his way. When the American people realize the truth is that Johnson and Trump are the ones who are holding up a resolution, I think there will be a lot of votes that he will lose because of that, because it is so wrong, immoral, and cynical. And by the way, there is, beyond what's in those bills, there's a solution that I, having been a judge and knowing that our immigration laws require a due process hearing for the people who are claiming asylum, my suggestion is that for a time maybe as little as 6 months, maybe a year, that the Attorney General and the President reach out. And there are plenty of retired judges around the nation who, for almost volunteer wages or no wages at all, would agree to be appointed special immigration judges to go down to the southern border and hold hearings, so that instead of people backing up or being housed temporarily or being sent to other parts of the country, within 2 weeks, we could have a hearing, and one after another of these cases would be decided and the crisis would come to an end.
Well, the sheriff of Oakland County saying that, you know what, these folks coming from South America and all over the place, robbing businesses in the U.S., etc. Is that exaggeration or is that true?
It is exaggeration. Now, look, if you have as many people coming over as are coming over, will there be crime in that group? Yes, but statistically, it's a lower crime rate than in other parts of the population of the United States. And secondly, Republicans like to talk about fentanyl. It's a bad drug. People who battle fentanyl ought to be put in prison. People ought to who cause deaths because of fentanyl ought to be put in prison for life. But fentanyl is not coming in through the southern border. It is a drug that is manufactured in laboratories. You can manufacture it anywhere. You can manufacture it
It's out of China. We're gonna take a break. Let's take a break, Alan, and then we'll come back and we'll go to the other side.
Okay.
The NFL Draft is coming to Detroit, and you can be there for free. Experience the ultimate NFL fan fest. Go to NFL.com/draft access. The NFL Draft, presented by Bud Light, April 25th through the 27th.
Without Project Clean Slate, there is no telling where I would be right now.
It gave him back his life, because once he got the felony, it seemed like life was over.
Being unemployed, being depressed, being a burden. Project Clean Slate helped wipe those things away. I can't say thank you enough. I am now able to work for a reputable airline. Detroit had my back, all because I live in Detroit.
Well, welcome back. Here with Carl Marlinga. This is Detroit in Black and White, our Thursday edition. We're out here in nice Sterling Heights.
Part of the 10th district.
There's no question about it. Now, Alan Langle from Deadline Detroit. Alan, you were asking about the conflict in Israel. Carl, how do that play in this election?
Well,
play in the district.
I mean, it doesn't really rise to an issue that people often talk about in this district. Now, that doesn't mean it's not. It's very important. It's critically important. It's critically important for Israel, for the Palestinians, for the United States as well. I think we're all agreed on certain things. First of all, there should be a ceasefire, and there should be a return of the hostages. Long term, the killing will not stop unless and until there is a two-state solution that is put into place, meaning that Israel has a right to exist in secure borders without fear of attack from the outside, and Palestinians have a right to self-determination, to have a state, Palestine call it, with secure borders, free from the threat of attack from Israel or anywhere else.
Alan, didn't they have an opportunity to have two states at one time?
They say in 2000 there was some with Ehud Barak, the prime minister at the time, who had talked about offering the Palestinians. They say 95% of what they're asking for. Of course, the right of return, meaning that all the Palestinians who come back to Israel, that was not on the table. But there were opportunities before. I agree with Carl in what you're saying. It's going to be basically, I think, what people don't, some people who don't know the issues deeply, like a lot of citizens out there, is that it has to be a negotiated situation where both sides can live with it, and that's the tough task at hand. I mean, right now they were trying to come to an agreement on the hostage returns, and now it went from 40 hostages to them giving 20, and it's not even clear how many are alive right now. But I agree totally. I mean, there's no fighting your way to peace here. Eventually, there has to be a solution, but both sides have to cooperate, and that means, this is my feeling, and tell me, Carl, what you feel, is that if you make a treaty with the Palestinians, that means that if there's a terrorist attack being planned in the West Bank or Gaza, that Israel would be able to call up the Palestinians and say, take care of it, much like they do in Egypt or Jordan. So they don't go, Israel doesn't go into Jordan, Israel doesn't go into Egypt. It's taken care of. And I think that peace treaty is, I think, anybody reasonable will say, yes, that's ideally, theoretically, the best solution. The question is, it's so hard with extremists on both sides, really.
Let me, with the president embracing Israel after that horrific attack, would that cost him Michigan?
No, for this reason. First of all, Donald Trump in his rhetoric has made it very clear that he is Islamophobic. That is, that he even talks about immigrants coming to this country necessarily should be people of our religion. Now, we don't know exactly what that means. It's a repugnant phrase because the First Amendment should prevent people from talking that irresponsibly. But it's a clear message that he is not a person that favors Muslim immigration to the United States. And in a number of other remarks, he's made it quite clear that he would not be a president who would be friendly to the interest of Muslims here or around the world. And I think that the people who are upset with him are going to realize that it's a long time between now and November. And people are going to come to the realization that, yes, they are upset with Biden because he didn't live up to the vision that they had of him, but they are to be more afraid of Donald Trump for living up to what his words say. And so I think that most of those uncommitted voters that voted in the primary will see that the wise choice for the future that provides for peace, well, look at, I mean, Joe Biden has, as a part of his peace plan, a massive reconstruction effort in Palestine, billions of aid to the Palestinians, and he is the only person who has a long-range plan that is consistent with the best interest of Israel and the best interest of the Palestinians.
How are you going to get these young folks out there saying, you know what, I don't like either one of the candidates, they're too old, it's, man, we need somebody else.
Well, so
Carl, you've been a prosecutor for many years, you was a judge, man, you need to be in Florida with Joe Biden and Donald Trump.
Yeah. Look, there's work to be done, and I think what Robert Kennedy once said that youth is not a time of life but a state of mind, meaning that as long as your ideas are young, as long as you are looking to the future, young people will gravitate towards you as long as they believe that you have their interest at heart and are sincere and really believe what you're saying. And I think that when you look at Donald Trump, it's hard to ever believe that he ever believes anything he's saying. Joe Biden, I think, is absolutely sincere in wanting to solve this crisis. So the answer is, if you choose to stay at home and not vote at all, that becomes 1/2 of a vote for Donald Trump. And if you are really satisfied that the future of the United States and the future of the world is in better hands if Donald Trump is president, then stay home, don't vote, because you're saying what you want, but then live with the consequences, live with the decrease in personal freedom, live with abortion bans, live with the attacks on your voter rights. All of those things is what you are saying. I want that if you stay home and you decide not to vote. if you are serious about these issues, and I think this has to be the challenge, don't look to the person. This isn't Hollywood. This isn't voting on who should get an Oscar. This is talking about policy. This is talking about the direction of the United States and the future of the world. And so hold your nose if you have to, but go out and vote for the person that comes closest to the types of policies and ideals that you believe in. And if you say to yourself, I don't have any ideals, I don't believe in anything, then fine, stay home. But if you have 1 ounce of integrity, 1 ounce of courage, 1 ounce of concern for what happens to your country, you are forced to make a choice. You cannot just sit back and say, I'll wash my hands of it, because then you are not only a part of the problem, you are the problem.
Now, if you prevail in the primary, do you expect elected officials like Whitmer or Alyssa Slotkin, Jocelyn Benson to come in and campaign?
Oh, yeah. No, but absolutely 100% without doubt. No, we will have the entire group of all of the very progressive and popular Democratic officials that have led the state so well, that they're going to be coming. This will be a battleground because everybody's going to know that the House of Representatives can stay in Republican hands. You can talk about impeaching people. You can talk about passing an abortion ban. You can talk about a lot of conservative policies, or you can get out and say, hey, we have a chance to take back the House. Although this is one district in Michigan, it really is a national election. It's very similar to an election in Britain, where you're voting for me, but as a consequence of voting for me, you're going to get Hakeem Jeffries, by the way, you're really voting for something larger than you're the candidate in your district. You're voting for a philosophy, a way of life, a way of government. You're voting for progress in the House of Representatives, and you're voting to end the crazy obstructionism and dysfunction of Mike Johnson and the Republican majority.
The polls say it's a toss-up.
Yeah.
So if Biden doesn't carry the state, where do that leave you?
Well, first of all, I think Biden will carry it. Part of my message, by the way, is that if you're going to pick out a district in the United States to put to invest in terms of campaign contributions or in terms of phone banking or volunteers, it would be the 10th district, because Michigan is really on the tipping point. We all know that if Biden doesn't win Michigan, he can't win the election, and so he has to win Michigan. The quintessential swing district that could go one way or the other is the 10th. And so door knockers for myself, for the Senate candidate, for Biden, are all going to be out there. That's why I know that every door is going to be knocked, because if we win this, it means that the 10th district will go Democratic, meaning we have to only pick up 3 other seats across the country to bring the House of Representatives back to our control. Secondly, if we win in the 10th district, it means that the Senate candidate will probably win Michigan, meaning that the Senate will stay in Democratic hands. Thirdly, and maybe more importantly, if we win in the 10th district, that's going to, because Biden has lost narrowly in the 10th district before, if we win in the 10th district, what could be a marginal loss in Michigan becomes a marginal win. And so it's in the president's best interest, Senate's best interest, and the House's best interest to really say, hey, look at this. This is for all the marbles right here, Sterling Heights, where we are. The rest of the 10th district.
Is Macomb County Reagan Democrats, or is that in the past?
It's really in the past. I mean, there's a no. I look at Reagan Democrats implied a different group of people who would only vote for the Republican at the very top of the ticket, vote Democratic the rest of the way. There's been a shift, and so well, look at Debbie Stabenow when she ran against John James in these precincts, won it by 5%. Gary Peters, when he ran in these districts, won it by 1%. I lost it by 0.5%, and it's just that finally balanced it with enough money, because Stabenow and Peters were incumbents and they had money. I didn't. With enough money, we could even the playing field, and then with door knocking, we could bring it home.
Okay, Alan, before we go, you have anything? other
Uh,
question for,
Carl, what your message to the voters in your district and why they should vote for you instead of John James, essentially?
Yeah, well, as I said, first of all, so I won't repeat everything said before. It's a
Sure.
difference in personal freedom. It's a difference in choice of the right of a woman to have her own reproductive freedom to choose an abortion if that is what her physician and her conscience tells her can be done. Government doesn't play a part in that. Secondly, I'm an environmentalist. I protected Lake St. Clair, the Great Lakes, in my term as prosecutor. John James voted to allow gas exploration and drilling for oil in Lake St. Clair and the Great Lakes. That's going to be a big difference because, my God, there are Republicans who love to are duck hunters, love to sail. They don't want to have the beaches fouled with an oil slick, and so that's going to make a big difference here. I'm the environmentalist. John James is the anti-environmentalist. Lastly, we have to fight inflation. And in order to fight inflation, we have to do it at the root core, which is every box of Cheerios, every cabbage, every carrot, every dozen eggs are brought to our supermarkets and transported across the country by trucks, sometimes by train. To the extent that we continue to rely upon oil and gas, we are at the mercy of Russia, Iran, and the OPEC countries. As the price of oil and gas go up, so too do our prices in all of our goods, as well as, of course, at the gas pump. If we could move the country to clean, green, renewable energy, when we're building buildings, heating buildings, there are 7 countries in the world, 2 in Europe, Iceland and Albania, that get all of their energy from electricity. It can be done. Now you have John James and the old guard saying, oh, no, we can't ever get away from oil and gas. Nonsense, we can't. Now, oil and gas will still be important for some things. If you want to have a car that runs on gas, you can have it. But to heat our buildings, cool our homes, run our trains, fuel our trucks, but we have to turn to new, green, clean, renewable, inexhaustible energies. And by the way, I think that this is a message that will resonate with young people because they know that nature lavishes upon us every day more energy than human beings could use in a decade. And by harnessing that energy, it's inexhaustible, it's cheap, we'll cut the price of oil and gas, we'll save the planet and cut inflation at the same time.
okay,
Right,
you got
right.
that word. Go
Let me-
ahead.
yeah.
Last word.
I'm sorry, I've got one more question, Carl. Coming from a state, Michigan, regarded as the car state, people are pushing for electrical vehicles, but there seems to be some issues of one, the sales of electrical vehicles aren't as robust as they had hoped. There's issues over the charging, and even in cold weather, the battery goes down. There's some issues over environmental issues over the building of batteries that it's harming the environment and and they're also heavier cars that are doing more damage to the road. Is a hybrid where we're going to end up, or do you see electrical vehicles as still the way we should keep pushing?
Well, wait a minute. So it's a false choice to be just talking about vehicles. Look at, we
Sure.
need energy to heat buildings. We could be bringing that up with heat pumps with geothermal energy that has nothing to do with the cars on the road. I was sitting in a building that has glass on the outside. You could have photoelectric glass, meaning that you could produce electricity by having the sun stream through the window. Gas and oil for vehicles will still be available. You can still have gas-powered cars, but you have to cut the use of fossil fuels in all of the other places where it is easy to do. Basically, heating and air conditioning of homes and buildings, with the trains, because of the wide surface that they have for batteries, could have just amazingly powerful batteries that would last forever. Trucks could do the same thing. The technology is there for things other than personal automobiles. I drive a hybrid myself. I think that hybrids make more sense in Michigan than EVs. And so I don't want the government to tell people what car they can drive. But using market forces, people will have a nice mix of automobiles. But let's make the real energy savings in heating and cooling of buildings, in delivery of produce and goods across the nation with trucks and trains. Electricity is abundant, it's available, and you can make batteries large enough to be able to allow trips without distance anxiety. It's an entirely different way of transportation. You don't have to worry about batteries running out if you're operating a truck or a train.
Well, with that, the former President Trump probably said we need cars that operate with coal. Listen, thank you, Carl Marlinga, congressional candidate.
Thank you.
We're gonna have to have you back on.
Anytime.
Alan Langer from Deadline Detroit, thank you. This is our
Thank
Thursday edition of Detroit in Black and White. We'll be on Saturday over at McShane's, Michigan and Trumbull. This is Adolph Mongo. Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, Jim. See you next week.
All right.